Well, it is that special day when we do answer the call. And Louisiana State Police are always available, monitoring the highways and byways. And a question they seem to always get is if a person can be arrested for DWI if they're on prescription medicine. So let's get some answers for you with the man with those answers, Trooper Eddie Thomas with Louisiana State Police Troop G. A familiar face here to KTBS. Great to see you again, Trooper Thomas.
Good morning. Thank you.
And this is one, well, first off, how often do you guys get that question? If people are on prescription meds, if they get pulled over, can they be cited for a DWI?
Very, very common misconception. A lot of questions that we get and a lot of the feedback that we get from people often comes in the form of if I'm arrested for DWI, it's only alcohol. We only focus on alcohol, and we forget that drugged impairment is impairment indeed. So when we talk about prescription medications, if the prescription medication has a warning label on it, speaks to side effects that may compromise your visual or cognitive or manual ability behind the wheel, it's best that you take that medication and stay home. What happens is people take this medication and they ignore the warnings on the label, and they get behind the wheel, and so they start suffering those side effects or sustaining those side effects, and it leads to a DWI.
Well, what if they say, well, my doctor told me this was going to be safe. This is on my doctor's recommendation that I should be taking this.
Again, we place the responsibility with them. It is their responsibility as motorists to check with their doctor to ensure that these medications do not come with warnings that can compromise their ability to operate a motor vehicle, a boat, heavy machinery. If they operate heavy machinery at their job, it's their responsibility to look into these things so that they can make sure that they are operating their vehicle safely and that they are alert and not distracted and not impaired.
Interesting take there. So, it ultimately comes down to keeping people safe. And if your drugs, even though your doctor is giving you or, telling you to take those, if that's not the case, yeah, we don't want to put people at risk. What are some of the other DWI or common misconceptions that people may bring to you guys as law enforcement that the general public may not be aware of?
We talk about over-the-counter medicines, NyQuil, Benadryl, and things to help with pain like hydrocodone or those types of medicines. Those things can also compromise your ability to operate your motor vehicle. So if you're under the weather, you're sick, and you decide to take some NyQuil, it's best to stay home. Let the medicine do its work while it's at home. We want you to get better, but we don't want you operating behind the wheel under the influence of these medications. Again, it's going to compromise your ability to stay alert behind the wheel.
Interesting too. Wow. Okay. Anything else that it comes to people taking, or you and I were kind of talking off camera about having 1 or 2 drinks. Where does that fall when it comes to being accessible or being allowed by law? Because you can have up to a certain point with alcohol, but you don't want to overdo it. Would you just kind of recommend? How do you recommend watching that?
Our statement is always this. If you decide to drink, if you decide to, and we understand people go out and they have a drink and they want to have a good time. Whether you've had 1 drink, 2 drinks, 5 drinks, if you decide to have an alcoholic beverage, make the smart choice. Call a ride, get a sober driver to get you home, or stay home. Enjoy those drinks while you're at home. What we don't want you to do is have a couple of drinks, think you feel good enough to drive, and you get out on the highways, and of course, my coworkers or the troopers are going to be out on the highways, monitoring the roadways, making sure they're safe. So make the safe choice. If you decide to have a drink, stay home or don't drive. Make the responsible choice and call a ride. So that's going to be our statement. And of course, to our viewers, if you spot hazardous or impaired driving, star 577, star LSP. We want to keep our roadways safe at all times if possible.
And they are out there keeping an eye on things to make sure we're all safe. Trooper Thomas, great breakdown today and some things I definitely didn't know. Appreciate that information, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. And if you have a question for this guy, he's going to get that answer for you. And let us know about it. You can email us to pressreleases@ktbs.com for answering the call and include a little portion of your question right there in the subject headline. Watch every Tuesday as we get those answers for you. And we'll be right back with more news and weather right after this.